Okay. Looks like it's sending data. Looks like the internet's going to give us another day to do our thing. And we're just going to make sure everything is totally copacetic. You guys know me. I don't take anything to chance. Nothing at all to chance. It looks like we're good. Looks like we're sitting pretty. All right. All right. Beautiful. What's up, everybody? What's up? Good afternoon, good evening, good day, good times, salutations. How you doing? Did you have a good weekend? Are you doing good? Are you staying safe? I hope you are well. And I first of all, I got to thank everybody that makes this show possible. ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules. And you can get their tea wholesale now, ZHITEA.com. They have some wonderful black teas. They have some wonderful green teas. They got a raspberry pecan. That's one of my personal favorites. And you can go over to ZT.com. It's a tea shop supported by a friend, or excuse me, that is run by a friend of the show and a good lefty, Jeffrey. They do a vigilante. That's Graham Elwood's tea, ZT.com. Also, our friends over at triageoil.com, TRIAGE oil.com. They make topical pain oil that you rub on your body, and it works wonders. It does a lot for neck and joint pain. It does a lot for sunburns. I found that out recently. I know you're thinking, Ron, you get sunburned in the summer? I know, crazy, but I do. I know it probably comes as a shock that I get sunburned, but I totally do. Triageoil.com. And maybe you're thinking, Ron, what about the type of oil that you digest? Do you got me covered? I do. RareNaturalsCBD.com. That's Rare Naturals with an S, CBD.com. They make the type of oil you can put it in your drink. It's all natural CBD oil. It's great after a workout. It's great if you feel a headache coming on. Sometimes if I feel a headache coming on, I'll put a little bit in a glass of seltzer water or something like that. And it works. It really does. It works. It's good at relaxing you, kind of good at soothing you, works well in a beverage, or you can just put a drop under your tongue. RareNaturalsCBD.com. Here's the coolest part. If you want to stock up on your CBD oil, you go there, use the promo code Lucy at checkout, LUCY. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout, and you get 30% off your order. So RareNaturalsCBD.com. Check it out. Guys, before I bring my guest in today, there's something else that I wanted to say, and this is not a fun way to start a week. And this is some pretty sad news, but I did want to say something here right at the top of the show. A lot of you guys know Angelica Dueñas. She is running for Congress in California's 29th district. She's also a friend of to the show who has been on this show a couple times. And she always does an excellent job when she's on the show. I love having her. She's one of my favorite people to have on the show. And she is a brilliant leader. And I'm, of course, rooting for her to win her race. And having somebody like Angelica Dueñas in public office would be, calling her a diamond in the rough or a breath of fresh air, that's like an understatement. You know what I mean? She's one of the people you want to see them win. You want to see them do well. And the reason I bring her up is because sadly she lost her father over the weekend. So condolences to her and her family. Her husband's an absolutely wonderful guy. They are great people, and it was very sad to hear that she lost her father over the weekend. I know he was struggling some. And she posted on social media that unfortunately they lost him over the weekend. So condolences to her and her family. And I'm sure you'll be hearing from her again before November. But condolences to her. And to find out more about her, of course, her website is just angelicaforcongress.com. That's Angelica, the number 4, Congress.com. But here at Get Your News On with Ron, we just want to send our condolences to Angelica Dueñas and her entire family. Very, very sad news, and we're definitely rooting for you. All right. So without further ado, let me bring in my guest today. So my guest today is I've met him a few times because he's been to a bunch of shows, and he had COVID. and he is doing better now, which is huge. And NPR did a story on him, and they didn't air everything that he had to say. So we're gonna hear everything that he had to say, and we're gonna hear a story. First, we're gonna get our news on. First, we're gonna get our news on together, and then we're gonna get your full story. But please welcome to the show a musician extraordinaire, Mr. Steve Alvarez. Steve, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Thanks doing good, man. Dude, thanks for doing this. I'm so excited you were willing to come on.
I just like have carte blanche to comment on the stories and whatnot, or
yeah, of course.
Right.
You're just, I mean, hey, you get to get your news on with me.
Careful
and yeah, oh, dude. They'll come after you, buddy. You're on your own on this show. They won't.
What are you gonna do to me now? Come on.
So, all right, we'll start out with the elephant in the room, no pun intended. But Trump's executive order. So yeah, well, so here's what's going on there. We're going to talk about this, and so this is from CNN. They're saying breaking down the executive actions Trump signed on coronavirus relief. Now, as I'm sure all of you already know, as I'm sure you know, Steve, Trump signed a handful of executive orders over the weekend in regards to the coronavirus and another quote unquote stimulus bill. I always put stimulus in quotes because it doesn't really help out people. It helps out the banks. But there's another quote unquote stimulus bill in the works. Now, I'm sure most of you at home are thinking, Ron, we are still flush with that $1,200 we got 5 months ago.
I was just thinking that.
We are so flush. I mean, what did you buy, Steve? I bought a yacht. What'd you do?
A tiger. I don't know.
You got a tiger. That's awesome. That is so cool. So you had when you were homesick, you had a tiger to keep you company with that $1,200.
Yeah. Well, he's dead now. He got the COVID too. So.
Oh no! Oh no! Wait. Tigers actually can definitely get it.
Great fertilizer, though. Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, they can.
I learned something every time I watch.
Well, so first they thought that only cats can get it, and dogs can't.
I got 5 dogs in my house, dude.
Well, dogs can get it.
Yeah.
Dogs can get it. I think like they're still trying to figure out like the seriousness of it all. We covered it. We covered it on this show a while back because they found out that cats could definitely get it. There was that case in Belgium where a guy got it and his cat got it too. They both had it. And I believe both have recovered. I'm not positive on that. I haven't followed up on it in a while. But so they were speculating, is there a chance that cats can give it to humans and vice versa, or vice versa? Mm-hmm. And so far, that's been inconclusive. They don't have any conclusions there, but they were able to conclude.
They haven't figured out how humans get it yet.
I mean, really, yeah. But like they have been able to
get it
to the extent, right? But they have been able to conclude that, yeah, cats can get it. And now recently they're saying dogs can get it too. So, but anyway, so my condolences to your tiger. And
I didn't even get to name him. That's
sheesh, buddy. Sheesh.
I was gonna name him Lucy, but it was taken.
Thanks. Oh, you could have been in tribute. Lucy would have loved to have had a much larger family member.
Hey, you know why I love your cat's name? Because that was my grandmother's name.
Oh, really?
She passed away in 2002. My grandma Lucy. Yeah, she raised me. She practically raised me.
Rest in power, Lucy.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's why I love your cat's name so much.
Thank you. Why?
Super lefty your cat is too. If you look at the cartoons,
she's very blunt in her views. Yeah, she does not sugarcoat it. Well, she's at night when we're asleep, she reads a lot of Chomsky, and she just kind of dies. She just kind of goes through the book collection, so that radicalized her a good bit over the years.
Manufacturing croissant.
Nice.
That was terrible. Oh, I'm sorry.
What are you talking about, Steve?
Hey, are we live?
Yes, we're live. And that's going to be a t-shirt. And don't worry, you're getting credit. That's going to be manufacturing croissant. That's going to be in the Lucy and Ron merch store at some point. You are going to get credit. Nice. We're not going to pay you anything. No, I'm just kidding.
Again, I'm a musician. What are you going to do to me?
Right. I'm a musician. I'm used to not getting paid for my creative output. I'm totally used to that.
Do 3-4 hour sets for us, and we can't pay you, but You'll get a free bar tab and exposure.
Dude, have you ever seen that that Craigslist? So I don't know if it was just a meme someone created or if it actually happened on Craigslist. And which, by the way, we actually do have a music story. So this will transition into one of the stories we're going to cover today.
Hey, it's Music Monday, man.
It is Music Monday. So we do have a music story. But they had this thing where a musician, like somebody posted a thing where they were like, we want you to come and play for free. You know, of course, like they always do. And a musician responded by doing a similar ad, but directed at the restaurateur.
I've seen that. I know what
you're Have you seen that where the guy goes, the guy goes, hey, I'm looking for a restaurateur to come do a food demonstration for me and my friends. No pay, but it'll help you get exposure for your restaurant and your food. Oh, and by the way, here's the types of food that we like. So if you could just make this, and we're still not paying you, but if you could just make these types of food, that'd be perfect. And then it's going to be great exposure for you and your food. And if we like it, that'll be great. You know, maybe in the future, you know, you can get someone else to pay you for. I mean, that is the gist of it.
That's exactly what they ask of us. Hey,
man, and comedians, we face the same. We face the same struggle. I think musicians have it worse. Musicians have it worse because, and I think the reason for that is comedy is still not.
But you're both, so.
Well, come on. Calling me a musician is very, very generous. That's very, very generous. I mean, I think it's like.
But you got the double whammy. So
I'm a comedian who don't beat your mic up. Come on, Steve. That mic didn't deserve that.
It's been through worse, trust me.
But no, I think because musicians have been around longer, as far as like. Well, I guess it's hard to say, like, who's been around them, but as far as like being a commodity act in a venue, music is so much more extensive than comedy is. I mean, you can still have a comedy night and random people will come out. You can't have a music night and random people will be like, what the hell does that mean? Is it folk? Is it metal? Is it punk? What the hell is it? Yeah. You know, that can mean anything, but a comedy night, they'll be like, okay. So I think it's like, it's easier for them to take advantage of musicians than comedians.
Well, I'm in Chicano in Texas, man. So
yeah,
I mean, I play all that stuff. I've had to play all that stuff. Otherwise I didn't play.
Well, I know you play metal, but what else do you play?
I grew up on metal. I was a rock and metal guy and blues. And then I'm pretty much all Tejano now. But the thing is within the Tejano genre, and my boss, Shelly Lares, will tell you this, is that she, you know, and she says it frequently on stage, is that some of the greatest musicians in the world, because we can play anything, could play rock, blues, country, just about any genre out there, because you had to. I grew up in West Texas, and you got to play some George Strait, and then you got to play some Little Joe. You know, you got to play a little bit of everything, and they get to play some top 40 stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, and I grew up in the 80s, so do you know any Debbie Gibson? Like, oh shit, okay, yeah, actually, you know. But
dude, I mean,
and it wasn't much pay, but it got something out of it, you know.
When you can entertain people at the bar, that's what you got to do.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of my
and then if I'm lucky, I get to work in. You know, I had a band in West Texas called the Blue Cats, and I know everybody has that name, but we used to play "Rockin' in the Free World," Neil Young, man.
That's such a great tune.
We'd open with that, like, oh, just hit him in the face, and then you have to go and you'd have to play all the other stuff that gets the barflies happy.
Of course, but dude, "Rockin' in the Free World," that song there are 4 chords total in that song.
Yeah.
Right? Or right? No, technically 5, because it's like there's 5 because it's like the E minor, D to C. That's like right? Yeah.
The truth.
That's the podcast that you have. But
rest in peace.
Yes, rest in power. 5 chords in the truth. But yeah, no, it's like at the end of the chorus, they hit the A minor, right?
Yeah.
It's like the E minor, D to C. Chorus,
and it just chugs on that A minor for. What, 4 bars?
And then it chugs on that A minor, and you can do whatever the hell you want there. You can break out a lead. You can just do like a freaking sludge, slide, whatever you want to do. It is such a fun song to just wail out on, especially if you got it on distortion.
You can milk the hell out of it, and nobody's going to care. Everybody's happy. You know,
they better be happy.
You're running through the song for the 3rd time?
That's fine.
Have at it.
I didn't get Neil Young when I was younger. It took me a minute. I didn't get him until after high school. By college, I understood Neil Young, but in high school, I was like, his voice is a little off-putting. And I still don't love his voice, but then you realize how little that matters when you listen to the songs that this man wrote.
Yeah. Well, that's the truth part. You know, that's the truth part. And he's talking about real stuff that affects real people.
He is.
In everyday life. What are the lyrics in Rockin' in the Free World?
There's a woman on the street with a baby in her hand next to an old. And then it's like the last verse, he goes, we got department stores and we got styrofoam boxes for the ozone layer. The last verse of that song is really just saying, hey, we're just going to keep on keeping on because capitalism and things are going to keep getting worse for you, the humankind. Gee, maybe that was a message. Maybe that was a warning we should have heeded. Yeah. What do you think, Steve?
Wasn't exactly a song of hope, but it was definitely 5 chords in the truth. You know,
no kidding, man. Well, and it was one of those songs too, where if you just listen to the chorus, you may get a totally different lesson from it, and you need to peel back a layer a little bit. I mean, you know, it's just like growing up as a kid. I remember, you know, all these talent shows or these when I was in grade school, right, where people would be.
That's my first gig in 7th grade, a talent show.
Wasn't it all of our first gigs? It was my 5th grade talent show, man. It's been downhill ever since. That was where I peaked.
I think we played a Loverboy song.
No kid, dude. So I still remember that. No, I still remember my 5th grade, or was it 4th grade? It was 4th or 5th grade. My talent show. I had a little band. I played keyboards. And my buddy Anthony, who is a professional musician, you know, he plays, you know, he tours with a couple big acts out of Nashville, and then he does his own thing. He was on the show recently, actually. He played guitar and sang, and then this other guy in our class played the drums. I don't know what he's up to now, but yeah, like Anthony and I have stayed friends over the years. We were in each other's weddings, and we played Let It Be by the Beatles, and we played Ramrod by Bruce Springsteen.
Wow.
I still, whenever I hear Ramrod, man, I always think of that, because that was kind of like a deep cut. That was like kind of a more obscure Springsteen tune, but that was what we played. And then
that's not on the jukeboxes.
No kidding, right? And then we but I remember, like, the reason I bring up like grade school and stuff like that, like you would remember everybody, you know, dancing around with the United States flags to Born in the USA.
Yeah.
And it's like, clearly you didn't listen to the verses of that song, or you would find out this is not a patriotic song. This is a protest song. This is an angry song. This is an anthem for the
patriotic in the sense of how people have been propagandized so much that they think, you know, they just the mindless flag waving. I mean, it's patriotic in a sense, like, you know, if you believe that the country was founded on protest, then it's patriotic as hell. You know, you got to point out the flaws, and you got to look inward. You got to understand what your own problems are before you, you know, I don't know. You can take pride,
sure,
you know, in your, you know, in the country or whatever, but I mean, that extends only so far as what are they, you know, what are they doing for you? You know, what's that empire really doing for you? It's doing a lot for people that already have everything. And
no kidding.
The rest of us just kind of squeaking by, or are in so much credit card debt that we kind of can live like we're doing okay, but there's this huge mountain of debt looming over you, and it's, you know, it's the same thing. You might as well be in poverty. You might actually have less pressure on yourself.
Yeah. So no,
I'm not articulating that well.
No, I see what you're saying, and so all right, so let's get to the coronavirus relief thing. The executive order.
Oh, this is the comedy part, right?
Yeah, this is the comedy part. This is Trump's. Trump signed this. All right. So here's some of the you know, bullet points. So the unemployment benefits, he wants to expand it to 400 a week, which is down from the 600. Here's the thing, though. The states are supposed to kick in 25%, which means 100. So technically it's 300. States are supposed to kick in an extra 100. Now Trump's saying, like, there could be a situation where they do cover 100. So far, that's not totally clear. Now the evictions. Now, according to the CNN article, the executive order signed by Trump, this is from the article itself, does not reinstate the previous moratorium on evictions, which lapsed in July. The original ban covered mortgages, which were backed by federal funds. So The new measure just states that the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Director of CDC shall consider whether any measures temporarily halting residential evictions of any tenants for failure to pay rent are reasonably necessary to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. So it's basically just saying, hopefully the CDC and everyone else decides, hey, don't evict people because it's dangerous. That sounds like that's basically what's that saying. So that's the eviction part. Now, here's the payroll tax part. It's a deferral, not a cut. They are going to have a deferral on payroll taxes, which they're going to use, let's be honest, to attack Social Security. Yeah. And then, of course, the student loan debt, they are going to defer student loans until the end of the year. Or it's a moratorium, I guess you would call it. But he waived student loan interest by executive order, and that's going to, it looks like that'll continue until the end of the year. And according to the article here, they are saying Trump's directive regarding student loans seems to be the one executive action of the four that will deliver the results, as the administration said. So that's what they're saying. So what's interesting in all of this, and now they're also speculating that this could lead to another payment. This could lead to another stimulus payment, because now, well, here, I got the headline right here. Now Mnuchin's saying that they're open to that. And here's the deal, bigger picture. But here, let me pull up that headline first. So yes, President Trump's executive order could trigger a second stimulus check. Here's what that's coming from. And, you know, they're saying that negotiations are underway there. Now, here's what I think, big picture. Now, Trump has figured out a way to make himself, like, come out looking like the good guy here, no matter what happens. Because here's the thing. During this time, a lot of people, they're going to respond to strength, whether it's legitimate strength or not. They're going to respond to it. So here you have Donald Trump, and, you know, because of Congress's inaction, he does these executive orders. If people end up getting help, he'll be able to say, well, if it wasn't for my executive order, if it wasn't for me putting on this pressure, this wouldn't have happened. If it doesn't work out, he'll be able to say, well, I did as much as I could with these executive orders, but because Congress did nothing, we only got so far. So Trump has kind of figured out a way to come out looking like the strong guy and looking like the good guy in this scenario. Hero. Right? I mean, it's like, and there is nobody to blame but Congress.
Yeah.
Like you got to blame Congress for this. I mean, I think there's a chance Trump may have sealed his reelection with this. I mean, what do you think, Steve?
I've never doubted that that's not even a remote possibility. You know, people are pretty much assuming that Biden's going to take over, but dude, he's not offering anybody anything.
No. Does this sound familiar? Have we been through this before?
Yeah, we've been through this numerous times over the last few decades. And if you're not, you know, it's like, well, we need to get back to normal. Well, normal was the drone strikes. Normal was escalating medical costs. Normal was rents and mortgages going up, interest rates going up for us, not for the top 1%. Normal was more wars. Normal was just really not so great. If Chris Hedges, I don't know if you had a chance to read Chris Hedges' new column today in ScheerPost.
I have not today.
And each one of his columns is almost like reading a book in itself. And I tell you, if you do a show on that, it's pretty much, I'm telling you now, dedicate the show to just the article, because it's so deep and so rich, and there's so much stuff going on, because he addresses so many, he adds so many historical parallels to what's going on now in the country. You know, the former Yugoslavia and all those states. And he was a war correspondent out there. He was there and he saw it firsthand. And what's happening, you know, with the collapse of those governments, and is what's happening now with us. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels to it, you know.
Well, that's the thing, man.
Collapse of the corporate state. Well, the corporate state's not collapsing. It's the facade of democracy that we have. That
the facade that the corporate state keeps us going is collapsing.
Yeah, it's like Carlin said, the owners of the country, you know, what he called them, the owners of the country. They, you know, and Chris Hedges has said before, Trump is just a terrible steward of that empire. because he's ripped the facade off. You know, he's exposed it for what it is, and the pandemic just exposed it even more. That we don't have any we don't have a functioning healthcare system. You know, everything is geared towards profit. You know, everything that should be not for profit, just a government service like the post office and so on, they're tagging it all, and they're privatizing it all.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what happened in those other nations too, as they collapsed, and people rose up and were pissed off about it. And that's what, I don't know. It's, again, I'm not articulating it well.
No, it's cool, man. No, you're doing great.
Articulates it well. You don't need me to tell you what Hedges said, because Hedges can say, he can speak for himself.
He writes some cool stuff, that guy.
Yeah,
he writes some cool stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like Trump's basically the really ugly zit on a forehead, where it's like, and it's like, so many people think, well, let's just pop that zit and then we're fine. And it's like, no, there's, you know, if you actually want to, you know, address the problem, this goes into, like, our system gave us Trump is the point. Our system handed us Trump. Trump is the result of what our system is. So if you don't change the system, you're just going to get more Trumps. And they're probably going to be worse the next time, because they might be more competent than he is. But here he is right now.
I think he said that too. You know, imagine if the impeachment had gone through, we'd have an incompetent a sociopath, and he'd be replaced by Pence, who is a competent sociopath.
Right. Well, that's what a lot of us were saying. That's what a lot of us were saying. And so many people, you know, they're so, because Trump is just so obnoxious, which he is. Trump's completely obnoxious. But because he's so obnoxious, so many people, you know, I mean, it even got coined Trump derangement syndrome. They gave a name to it. We're just so, like, not able to see past the tree to see the big forest. And we're like, oh, yeah, let's get rid of it. And then it's like, yeah, but then we get President Pence. Do you realize how freaking dangerous that is? Yeah. And so, yeah, man, it's one of those things. And I think it's so impossible to really make predictions right now, because we are in such unprecedented times where everything changes daily. But, you know, before
that's by design, too, to keep us all, like, discombobulated and distracted.
Absolutely.
And this way and that way. Absolutely. Meanwhile, they're behind the scenes and they're just moving things towards where they want it to be.
Yeah. But because of the pandemic, it has been up to 11, to make another fun music reference. That's been amplified to 11 now.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. So I think if the election were held right now, today, Trump wins.
Yeah, sure.
And by the way, I refuse to say the words Joe Biden wins, because this is not a competition between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Yeah. This is a competition between Donald Trump and himself. We are all wondering if Donald Trump will beat himself or if he will win. And that goes to show you how pathetically weak the opposition is. And that's by design.
Yeah, it's
by design that the donors only let Joe Biden through. Joe Biden. And
just like this last Friday, they're calling it the night of 1,000 knives, or like, you know, but that's what they did on Super Tuesday, that they before Super Tuesday, they consolidated everything and just put everything behind him, because he's what they consider
the guy who was barely showing up
of the corporatocracy.
Yeah, you know? No kidding, man. Well, if the election was held right now today, who do you think would win?
I don't know. I think it's a toss up, man.
Yeah.
I think people are pissed off and fed up with Trump, but that doesn't mean
they are
lose. Because how many people are going to stay home? Because, hey, I don't have any choice here. I get the pretty face of the empire and I get the shitty face of the empire.
Well, here's the thing, man. People respond to strength, even though I think in many ways this whole executive order thing is just political theater. It's just, but that opportunity was handed to Trump by a completely incompetent Congress. A completely incompetent Congress handed that opportunity to Trump. The Democrats have misplayed every single thing here. And we've said that on this show, even when other people were disagreeing. When Steve Mnuchin offered that week-long extension, it was just crumbs thrown out, and it was just more or less like an FU act. But what the Democrats should have done, they should have called that bluff, and they should have been like, hell yeah, you're extending it in the short term, because we're not going to let people suffer for one freaking day. And we're going to hold your feet to the fire to meet us with a decent bill, because otherwise we're going to say you got to keep extending this until we come up with something. So unless you want to keep extending it, you're going to come up with a decent long term. That's what they should have done. That's what strength would have done. Instead, what they did was they were like, no, we're not. It's not long term. They didn't have the foresight to actually. Plus, I don't think they actually care about helping the people. They just want to make the opposition look bad. Because if you don't help the people, the donors are still happy. And if you make the opposition look bad, well, maybe you might beat a Republican in November, which is going to keep the facade up. So that's really at the end of the day what they wanted. So they completely mismanaged this whole thing.
Yeah.
And because of that, Trump was handed a gift. They handed Trump a gift where they're like, okay, now you come out looking like the leader. You're going to have these executive actions. You're going to look like the leader now. And Congress is doing nothing. Now, here's what's interesting.
He looks like the leader. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. Go ahead.
He looks like the leader, but it's only 400 as opposed to 600 before, which sucked anyway.
Right, but 400 is more than nothing. I mean, I'm with you. And again, this is all theater.
And it's just a tax deferment. You're going to have to pay it next year. It's like you're not getting the break off it. It's not a tax cut for us. Guess who they gave tax cuts to? They sprang into action on that first CARES Act. And those were cuts. They're not going to ever have to pay that.
Oh, the trillions they just handed Wall Street and the banks
but this
bailed out the airlines industries. They got all this money. They still won't refund people.
Yeah,
they got all this money. They still won't. You can fly later. They still won't. I mean, I guess some airlines have, but a lot haven't. And there's no repercussion if you don't. There's no repercussion if you don't.
I'm really trying not to cuss too much here, man. You're not making it easy.
Yeah, you're allowed to cuss.
Yeah, but I got friends and family watching.
We're not on radio.
I got a Facebook radio.
Your friends, me too, buddy. Me too. Your friends and family don't think you know swear words?
Those are probably the first words I learned. Especially in Spanish.
Perfect.
I threw you off track. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, dude, it's you're totally good. So anyway, that's what's going on there. We'll see how this continues to unfold. But I think it's like Trump was just handed this golden opportunity. He ran with it. And I think, again, we are in such crazy times because of this pandemic. It's impossible to predict anything. But I think if nothing really significant changes, which if it does, it's not going to be by the act of Biden. It will be by just something crazy happening in the world. Crazier, I should say. I mean, we already got crazy, pretty turned up on the half stack, man. It's turned up pretty high.
Yeah, we're at 11 now. How much higher can it go?
No, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. But I think Trump just, I think there's a good chance Trump just secured re-election over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I think the Republicans knew what they were doing.
But I'm not happy with either result. I mean, it's 3 months away.
No, well, my attitude is
the whole polls can change by next week again. And
I take the polls with a huge grain of salt because, it happened in 2016 where there were more people that were going to go out and vote for Trump than wanted to admit it. And so the polls were off. Everyone was saying Hillary was going to win. People were already celebrating. Same thing's happening now. Oh, Biden, look at these polls. He's got to win. Yeah. We're already celebrating. Biden supporters are. Meanwhile, it's like, well, look at all these little things that are happening. Look who comes out looking like the strong guy. Meanwhile, Biden is hiding in his basement. When you're going through something like a pandemic, a lot of times you don't want to take a chance on something you don't perceive as strong, which anybody who listens to Biden talk for 25 seconds might not perceive him as strong, might not perceive him as a leader. I know it's a crazy thought, but if you listen to Biden talk, he's not all that engaging.
Listen, fat.
He doesn't sound like he knows what's going on. Come on, Mac. My leg hairs. Like, okay, that's all right.
Black. I mean, come on, dude.
Hey, Biden. What's your big message right now? Society is crumbling, and you are the only thing standing in between 4 more years of a guy who put the country under martial law and gassed a bunch of people in his own neighborhood for a photo op. What's your big message? Check out this old car. That's what you got? That's what you got. You want to show off your old car. Wow. You couldn't write this. If somebody pitched 2020 as a script, they'd be like, too unrealistic. We can't do this. Even as a dystopian comedy, they wouldn't buy it.
You remember all those doomsday movies that came out a few years ago, like 2012, The Day After Tomorrow?
Yeah.
My wife loves that movie, Day After Tomorrow.
I haven't seen it.
She watches constantly. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I think I got actually seen the whole thing now from the bits and pieces. But remember all these, yeah, the dystopian stuff that you're talking about. There's all those movies that come out, and who would have thought that this could just be so much worse and so much nightmarish, and they pretty much glamorize it, and there's always somebody in charge with some funky ass hairdo and I volunteers tribute and all that shit, but this is affecting real people, man. It's not a joke. It's not a movie. This is people are struggling, man. We're struggling. I'm sure you guys out there, I know the cost of living in California. I lived there. I mean, I lived there for 5 years in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And it was crazy, the cost of living there. I can't imagine what it is now. And
California is super cheap, man.
What? Come on.
I'm kidding.
First I heard.
Everything's changed.
I love LA.
You missed it.
I really did.
You missed the text message. They were like, California.
That's a little joke.
I
told from Star Trek. This is what I get for missing staff meetings.
Rent is going down a little bit, but I mean, it's still, incredibly expensive. But
the cheapest rent I ever paid, and I'm talking like 1992, 93, cheapest rent I ever paid was like $540. That was super cheap. That was a little 1-bedroom apartment. It was the landlord was somebody.
What part of town were you in?
I was in Monterey Park, Alhambra, Rosemead.
Oh, that's kind of, I mean, I live in Pasadena, so I'm nearby.
Yeah,
I'm nearby all that.
Yeah, it's a
cool area, man. Yeah.
It was weird. The commute. I had no vehicle out there at the time. I drove. I took the MTA, and it was called RTD back then. And but I took the bus. It was a 30-minute commute in the morning into Hollywood for some reason, because I worked in Hollywood. And for some reason,
that's actually pretty good. Like 30 minutes, you get into Hollywood from there.
Yeah, coming home even would be an hour and a half for some reason.
Right. Okay. Yeah. More people getting on and off. Time of day. I feel you. All right. So, Steve, we got to get to your story soon, but I promised you a music story, so we're going to hit that first. So, this is a bill that's been hanging out since about 2019. It hasn't moved very far yet, but it was in the news this week because more politicians have signed on to it. So, here's the headline from an outlet called Hypebot. Majority of U.S. House says musicians should not be paid when their song is on the radio. 12 more members of the U.S. House of Representatives has signed on to the Local Radio Freedom Act, which continues the practice of not paying performers when their song is on radio. So here's the deal. When someone gets what are called performance royalties, which, Steve, I know you've had exposure to this, it's given to the publisher and the songwriter, but not the actual performer. And now the National Association of Broadcasters, they're for this bill. This is from 2019, but it kind of lays out what exactly this thing is. NAB strongly supports resolution opposing performance royalty on broadcasters. So here's what the verbiage of the actual bill says. Congress should not impose any new performance fee, tax, royalty, or other charge related to the public performance of sound recordings on a local radio station for broadcasting sound recordings over the air, or on any business for the public performance of sound recordings on a local radio station broadcast over the air. So they're basically saying the way we have it now, where there's the publisher share and the songwriter share, that's it. We're not going to mess with it. Opposition, people that are opposed to this, are saying, well, what about the performers? Sometimes people don't really get their fair share. And plus, musicians are underpaid so often. I mean, Spotify is screwing over musicians. All these streaming services are screwing over musicians.
Yeah, I saw that.
A bill like this
the other day.
Yeah, and this goes into terrestrial radio. Now, I understand how the other side might be. Well, if you have to pay more, blah blah blah. Like, look. The way it works out, a large radio station that's owned by, let's be honest, is probably owned by Mitt Romney's company. They're all owned by Bain Capital, which originated as Clear Channel.
That's still a thing.
They pay a lot more than your local non-commercial community radio does. There's different standards for non-commercial community radio. They're paid, or they have to pay based on the size of their operation, based on the budget of their operation, and they're usually happy to ante up and pay what's due, because what you do is you keep a log of all the stuff you play, so that can be turned over to these performing rights organizations. And I know this stuff because I used to have a lot of air shifts on non-commercial radio. I did it in college. I loved it. It led to what I'm doing today, really.
For 3 years in the 80s, I did an afternoon Tejano music show, and every once in a while we would get a log that we had to fill out for the show.
Yeah.
It was like a spot check audit thing, you know. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
and everything that you, and I know it was for that purpose.
It's for that purpose. So they try to, and look, it's not, you know, it's one of those things. Does every single artist get every single penny whenever something is spun? No, probably not. Like their accounting and their methods only go so far. And if you're playing something really obscure where there's no record of it being cataloged in any way, you know, maybe that's not going to work out. But they cast a very wide net. And a lot of artists, even though they're not getting what they should be getting completely, they are getting something. So to kind of go out of your way to make sure these radio stations don't have to pay more, it just seems like you're kind of protecting the big cable lobbyists, really. Because radio, I think at the end of the day, what this comes down to is the homogenized terrestrial radio. I mean, it is just sinking like the Titanic. These stations,
we already know they're all owned by 6 giant mega media corporations.
If that, I mean, yeah, like the media as a whole, like, yeah, there's about 6 of them that can constantly consolidate. Radio, I mean, Clear Channel gobbled up everyone. Yeah. And then Clear Channel was bought by Mitt Romney's company, Bain Capital. And I think there might even be like another company that merged with that. And that's where and they were able to do this in 1996 because of who? Bill Clinton, who rolled back all Telecommunications Act, rolled back all the protections that said you couldn't own, you know, you could only own so many AM and FM stations in a given market, if like one company, to prevent the hyper consolidation of media. Bill Clinton lifted all those protections. He got rid of them. And then they just gobbled up and completely homogenized radio. It's not working out the way they wanted to. So now they want to make sure every nickel and dime they can possibly keep, especially if it's like, oh, well, maybe performers should get paid for these songs to play on the radio. Maybe you don't get the songwriting or publisher share, but you were a hired gun that played on the studio recording of this. You go out and tour with so-and-so. Mm-hmm. You should get a little bit of a performance royalty. I think you should. They're saying, no, we're not going to let you do this.
Well, I can say just from my own experience that most, unless under very different circumstances, I mean, most musicians don't make any money off of sales of downloaded music. I mean, there's very little. You get pennies. And I know that just from some of my own projects. I know that from people I work with. The majority comes from the touring, the live touring, and from
touring,
the merch that
touring
they sell.
And merch, the stuff that's in their hands.
Yeah, and now that spigot is cut off right now.
That spigot's cut off, exactly. Well, and that in so many people, like general people, don't realize it's like your album usually doesn't make any money.
Yeah,
and I think it was
it costs you a load of money to make it, to record it, to get the musicians to come in and
so it's like you got a label that costs a ton of money. Yeah, and if you got a label behind you, well, that's great because at least they're footing the bill. But you don't see a penny till they recoup everything.
Yeah.
So you may, unless you're in like the top, and book publishing's the same way. I mean, it's something like only about 9% of books ever actually make any money. You know, I think it's something like 9%. Don't quote me on that. I mean, you know, and it's
totally
it's not.
No, it's too late, dude.
Tattoo it on your arm, Steve. Only 9% of books make money. Ron Placone.
So I need that, dude.
Because I think it might actually be lower than that, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's like only this small percentage actually make money that are published by publishing houses because they need to recoup their expenses. You know, if you're an author who's lucky enough to get an advance, well, you get to keep that. Yeah. But you may never see anything else other than that advance.
Yeah, the publishers still got to recoup that before you see anything.
Recoup that. They recoup that before you see anything. Same thing as labels, man. And so it's like, I remember, and I'm sure you've seen this article at some point in your life over the years. Steve Albini wrote that article back in the day. I want to say, was it early 2000s? Have you not seen this? You got to look it up. Okay. Look it up after the show. Like just Google like Steve Albini records making money or something like that. It'll come up. But he wrote this article, Steve Albini did, laying out like if you get a major label deal, this is what it really takes for you to make any money. Because he was like doing all the math where he's like, you get this advance and then you get this, you know, touring advance, and then you get, and he laid out how long it actually took until you would actually see a dime of royalties, how many records you would actually need to sell to ever see a dime. And you hear that story time and time. I mean, the most common story from anybody who's ever worked with a record label, we got this nice advance. I got to, stay in a swanky hotel while we were talking about terms. And it was really cool. My wife ordered room service, or my husband ordered room service, or whatever the situation is. And then they dropped us a couple years later when we didn't recoup everything. That's the most common story. And now,
and they get to keep all the music publishing rights. And I mean, it depends on the contract you signed.
If you signed away some of your rights, you got to deal with that for the rest of your freaking career.
Yeah, but if you're halfway to nobody, it belongs to them from, time immemorial.
Well, have you heard of these 360 deals? Have you heard of that? So I don't. What?
Educate me, sir.
Sure. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs. I mean, I just know the basic umbrella of what that means. The 360, it means 360. And basically what it means is they just kind of get a taste of everything. It's not just based on the record that you make for them. They get a taste of that merch. They get a taste of that live touring. They get a taste of the publishing. They get a taste because their argument is we do all this other stuff to promote you, the artist. And people aren't buying records the same way anymore. It's changed. So we should get a taste of everything. And they have these deals now. I can't speak to how unfair they may or may not be, but it is a thing now. And most of the music community has responded in the hesitation camp, very much ooh, it seems like you're screwing us over yet again.
That's because they are. I mean, it sounds like.
Well, I just don't have any firsthand experience. So I'm just saying, I don't know all the ins and outs of how these deals work. But
when you started saying that, it reminded me of the flashback scenes in Godfather 2. What was the mafia don's name with the white suit? Don Chichi or something. I can't remember his name.
Oh, dude, I don't. I mean, if you want to talk one, I can talk one some. But
I gotta whip my beak a little bit. I gotta whip my beak. That guy.
Yeah.
That's what this sounds like, man. It's like, I need a taste.
Yeah.
Sopranos, that was the thing all the time. Where's my taste?
Well, and there was the actual character on Sopranos that he actually did rip off a bunch of songwriters.
Yeah, that's right.
Hesh.
That was Hesh.
It was Hesh. Yeah. He had all that, and it was, of course, and you know what I wondered? I mean, obviously it's fiction, but it's based on stuff that, of course, happened in the world. I was always, and this just speaks to the music nerd in me, I was always curious if Hesh was actually old enough to have done the stuff that they said he did.
All the big doo-wop groups in the 60s and stuff.
Screwing over those big doo-wop groups, especially the female, the black female groups. I mean, they got screwed over royally. There was what was it, Frankie Lemon, or what was that kid's name? Where it was you know what I'm talking about? Where there was the kid where they were kind of like the Jackson 5 before the Jackson 5 was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Frankie,
in the show?
Huh?
This was in the show?
No, this is real life.
Oh, okay.
This is real. The Frankie, what was it? It's gonna bug me. Some people in the chat are probably going, it's this person. But there was a group. It was an all black group, and they were very young. And this was pre-Jackson 5. This was Jackson 5 before Jackson 5. The lead singer was this kid, and he was about 13 years old. And they were all wow, you're big and famous, and you're so young. What's going on with all your money? You can find this footage. And he says, oh, yeah, it's in a trust fund for us. There was no trust fund. They were stealing from these kids. Yeah. And that lead singer, I think it was Frankie something, he died a junkie at 21.
Wow.
Because they screwed him over. He never saw a dime. He turned to drugs because he was so broken from the whole thing. And he died from an overdose. That's one of the saddest stories in all of music. Arthur Big Boy Crudup had to work on a field until the day he died. Meanwhile, he's hearing his music that Elvis Presley did.
Yeah.
And everybody else did. He wrote those freaking songs. He wrote these songs.
Did you see Cadillac Records?
No.
Okay, you got to watch that. Not. Yeah, I advise you watch that. It addresses some of that stuff. It's well, hey, I need more money. He's well, I got you a Cadillac, man. What else do you want? That kind of thing, But he didn't really have enough money to live, that kind of stuff. And then I lost my thought. I was going somewhere else with that, but never mind. Go ahead.
I got to check it out, man. I mean, it's just one of those things. And whenever you see like another anti-artist thing going on out there, you know, like who is this really?
Record labels have only ever existed to exploit the musicians anyway. It's like, why do you need that middleman? You know, I mean, I guess they had the distribution, they had the connections with radio stations and media at that time, which is a whole different world now. If you're trying to get on radio now, I mean, good luck, man. You know, that's a pipe dream. But
radio now, I mean, the only way to break in is like via the AAA thing and via like knowing where you fit in and contacting those programmers. I mean, it's all niche now, like everything else, and showing up to, you know, the festivals that pertain to you, be it Folk Alliance or Americana Fest or whatever it is, depending on the genre of music you play, finding out some of these college DJs who are spinning punk or metal, whatever it is you are. I mean, that's the only role radio has now, and most of it's digital.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is a different world now. I mean, radio is like, I don't even listen to radio hardly ever. I mean, in the vehicle with the wife and we're going somewhere, yeah, we'll put on a station.
Well, did you listen to your own segment, Steve?
The NPR deal?
Yeah.
What a segue you just did.
Right? See what I did there? And we still have one more story before we're going to get to your story. And I'm sorry this is taking so long.
Just wasted that segue then. Come on.
I know, right? I should have saved it, but it was just a perfect time.
I'm all podcasts and Apple Music and
I don't know how many
YouTube.
Times. I bet my editor.
Go ahead.
YouTube?
Yeah, I fell down the YouTube rabbit hole last night till 1:30 a.m.
Oh, did you?
That happens all the time.
Just preparing for this show.
No, not even. I mean, I watched some of that. I watched the Margaret Kimberly stuff. Oh, she's awesome, dude.
Isn't she great? I love talking to her. She's so great. And
I was watching concerts, but then I watched that, and I watched a couple of other things. I watched the stuff with Savage Joy and Nate Sliver.
They're great. I love them. Yeah. No, that's ever since I made this a more guest centric thing. It's just been so much fun.
Margaret Kimberly, I can listen to her all day.
Me too. Yeah, it was so great to talk to her. But anyway, I think my editor Joe has probably cursed me out multiple times by now. I think that was like my one aside. I was like, oh, I bet Joe is really pissed. He's like, you've done like 2 stories and you've babbled a bunch in between and during all of them. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
I'm just impressed you have an editor.
Thank you.
Gina's my editor. I think it's fire.
So real quick, I want to touch on this because this is a net neutrality story, so I cannot wait on these things. And then, Steve, we're going to get to your story. All right. So feds move to block California's net neutrality law. Okay, so here's what's going on there. And this is going on right now. Net neutrality, for those of you that are regulars to this show, you know that net neutrality and municipal broadband, which is city-owned internet, that's part of the mission of this show. That's an issue that means an awful lot to me. Net neutrality is the policy that makes the internet free and open. It assures that the internet is treated like a utility. Like
it always was before.
Which it always was since the advent of the internet. Absolutely right, Steve. And it assures that it stays that way. It's treated the same way as flowing water to your house or like a phone call. If I call Steve or I call the White House, it's treated the exact same way. It's just treated like a phone call. Well, this assures that type of treatment for the internet. Without net neutrality, internet service providers can create fast lanes and slow lanes. They can have different content load at different speeds based on the provider, the content creator's ability to pay, which means CNN.com will load great. This show and other independent shows, not so much. That's what a post-net neutrality world can look like. They can make the internet into cable television 2.0. Why does big cable want this to happen? Because they can price gouge the internet further and make more money. What does it mean for we the people? It means we lose the medium of the internet as we know it.
It's already happening.
It's already happening. I mean, they're already testing out to see what they can get away with.
One of them keeps suggesting some weird shit to me, man.
Well, there's a lot of weird stuff. I mean, you see, for instances, where they, the firefighters couldn't get enough data. And that could have happened even with net neutrality. Something like that could have happened. But because we didn't have net neutrality, nothing could be done about that. When Verizon just didn't allow these firefighters to use the data they needed to fight a freaking fire, oh, by the way, some of those people might have been prison labor, so they might have been getting paid $1 a day to fight wildfires, and they couldn't even get the data that they needed. Thanks, Kamala Harris. But anyway,
that probably plays into why it was such a low priority.
Well, yeah, well, because of a post-net neutrality world, they had no action against this. They could not take any action against this. So here's what's going on. In California, we actually have a very good net neutrality bill that was signed into law by Governor Brown before he left. And it's a good bill. We've covered it extensively on the show. It's a good bill. Now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to fight that in court. Now, what the court ruled recently, and this happened, they mentioned this in the article. In October of 2019, the FCC's reversal was mostly upheld. The reversal they're referring to was the FCC's repeal of net neutrality. The Trump FCC repealed net neutrality. But here's the kicker. The District of Columbia Court of Appeals ruled that the FCC did not have the legal authority to prohibit states from passing their own net neutrality regulations. What they're saying is, okay, the FCC had the authority to, take net neutrality away at the federal level. But if states want to pass their own net neutrality laws, they can do that. Which I thought in many ways, that's a good thing. I felt like the good outweighed the bad there because that's huge. Because here's the kicker. If 2 states pass net neutrality, which New York is working on theirs, California's already passed theirs, guess what? All of a sudden, 43% of the customer base in the country, you can't enroll net neutrality anti-net neutrality packages. So these cable companies are dead in the water. They can't do anything against net neutrality. So that's a big deal. So now the federal judges, they're trying to get federal judges to go after the state net neutrality laws, and that's where we're at to date.
So much for states' rights, right?
Huh?
Your states' rights. That's always
right.
It's like, leave it to the local municipalities and the states and less government. And then when it comes to something like this, it's gonna, it's got huge implications for the public at large. Like you said, it's a utility just like water, gas, or anything else that you have into your home. Everybody needs to have it just to function in society now. Mm-hmm. And they're privatizing the hell out of it. Because it's in-stage capitalism and it's consuming itself, man. And this is so hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I would love for that I would love for them to be able to do their own thing on the state and local levels. I mean, because I know was it the Pasadena City Council that you spoke to?
Yeah, man, it's been a slow climb, but yeah, I mean,
a year ago that you did that. I remember.
Yeah, it's been a little while now. Yeah, it's just
you look heartbroken over it now.
What?
You look heartbroken over it now. I'm sorry.
No. I'm a little. I feel bad that I'm not further. I mean, it's one of those things though that it's kind of hard to be like, we need to break ground on a municipal broadband project during a pandemic. But the other side of it, man, and this is something I've talked about with a lot of people. We are seeing the need of the internet being a utility now more than ever because we're in a pandemic. Kids can't go to school if they don't have the internet. They're screwed, and this is the digital age we're living in.
And yet they're forcing them to go to school anyway.
What?
They're forcing them to go to school anyway.
Well, that's changing. I think. I think in Georgia they've closed the schools in Georgia since, I believe. I think that school in Georgia where they did you hear about the thing where the kid took the picture and the kid got suspended? Yeah. I think that school has since gone online because they had a bunch of COVID cases.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how much of that was the PR pushback though? Because otherwise,
I mean, that's a fair question.
It would have gone right through with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that kid hadn't put that up and it went viral.
Right. No, I see. They're trying to force the kids back to school, but there's still some schools aren't opening. A lot of colleges, they're not. So it's like people that don't have access to the internet, which still happens in the United States. They are at a beyond huge disadvantage. It's huge in the rural areas. So now more than ever, we're realizing how the internet needs to be a utility, a free and open utility. Yet it's like, you're kind of like, well, how can we act on it right now with everything that's going on? So, and that's what's going on with net neutrality policy. Why are they focusing on California? Because they know if California's net neutrality laws stand, which has been being battled out in the courts, they know that other states are going to follow and that we're going to hold the lines until we can get municipal broadband all over the country.
Which plays into also the the judges that they've been pushing through, the Senate has been pushing through, the Democrats have been facilitating.
Yeah, they've been fast tracking Trump judges. Trump, very open, anti net neutrality administration,
pro corporate.
Yeah.
So,
but they work in conjunction, man. I mean, yeah, Trump gave Ajit Pai the main gig, but who brought Ajit Pai in the first place? Obama did that.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tom Wheeler was a cable lobbyist. Tom Wheeler didn't want to get net neutrality on the books. He had to because the public demanded it. Yeah. So, I mean, we don't.
That shows you the value of direct action.
Yeah, it really does. Because, I mean, here's the thing. If we did have a pro net neutrality head of the FCC, that would be huge in reinstating it. We probably would get that reinstated because the public would really rally around it again. So that would be big, but it's like you still have to recognize that it's like there's still so many dishonest actors on all sides, quote unquote, that are working against this thing. But let's get to your story. Let's get to your story, man. Okay. So Steve's story, everybody. Steve, you had COVID. And so let's just start. How did you, like, when did you get it? When did you know you had it? What happened?
Father's Day weekend, Gina, my wife, we traveled to West Texas, about a 5-hour drive from San Antonio, and to visit her dad. And we stopped off. My dad lives on that route, and we stopped and visited him as well. So I think we took off on a Friday. I don't know, we took off on a Friday or Saturday, and I had already set up a doctor's appointment in Odessa, who's a doc I've seen for 21 years, and is giving me a break, even though I don't have insurance right now. He's giving me a little break on the doctor visit. So it's like we set that up ahead of time, and then by that time I was already not feeling so great, especially that Sunday.
So what was going on?
We set the appointment was Monday morning, and I thought, it's just a sinus infection. I go through this a couple times a year. It's normal, especially when the season changes.
What were your symptoms? Like, talk a little bit about your symptoms.
Some body aches, a little bit of chest congestion, and that was just kind of where it started. And just weird headaches that I couldn't get rid of with just Tylenol or ibuprofen, and I got a little stockpile of Tylenol 3 with codeine, and in a pinch, for a breakthrough, I'll hit that. So that's how it started, real mild. Okay. And so I thought that's how it was. So he gave me that Z pack, the steroid pack, and so we came back to San Antonio that Monday, that day, and by Wednesday or Thursday, I think I finished the pack, and I was feeling worse. So I actually started keeping a symptoms log, and it went. I was keeping track. So I'd say, like, at first I think, yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna get past this, and it just lingered and lingered. By that Wednesday, Thursday, I started losing my sense of taste and smell.
Was it like an immediate thing? Like you woke up and you couldn't taste anything or smell anything, or was it like gradual?
Yeah, it was later in that same week, after Father's Day. And that's when I started thinking, this is different because this has never happened to me before. And it's like when you taste stuff and, it just tastes like ash. And then by that point, you're just eating because you're hungry and you need to feel full, but you're not enjoying it, and you really don't even want to eat because it's not in any way pleasurable.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever even happened to me before in my life. Like I don't think I've ever. I mean, I've had, like if I've had a really bad congestion or whatever, like my taste buds will be diminished, I feel like, but I'm still able.
Well, yeah, because your olfactory senses are tied into your taste buds.
Right.
Right. So if you can't smell, you can't taste so great either, but you can still taste something.
Right.
This was like a complete void of this. I mean, like I said, it just tasted like ash or something. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like eating dirt or something. It was weird. So, but then by that Friday, I started getting chills. So I started checking my temperature, and it was up like 99.4. It went up to about 100.7, and the headaches were becoming more frequent. I was taking more over-the-counter stuff like Sudafed, Alka-Seltzer Cold Plus, just stuff that I can get. And so I went ahead and called the doc, and he prescribed me some prednisone, and I think another steroid, if I'm not mistaken.
So how long did it take until they were like, this is COVID?
I went in for a test on, let's see, before I finally had it, it was June 29th is when I actually went in for the test. Now, this was a free test to the city of San Antonio. So it was about a 6 to 8 day waiting period before you got the result. It took about 5 days before I got the result, and it was positive.
Mm-hmm.
And the wife and I both went in, and we were both positive. So by the time I got the result, I was so much worse that I knew I had it. I didn't even need the result to know that I had it. So every day I'm waking up with headaches, and the temperature goes up and down throughout the day. I'm getting these chills. I think the highest went maybe 101.5 or something like that. I was bitching and moaning that it was too cold in the house, and I'm going to turn off the AC. And then everybody started getting on, hey, it's hot in here. I said, man, I'm freezing. Well, put on a blanket, put on double layers, put on a hoodie or something. So that's what I did. And it's all it was. It was the fever, the chills that you get with a fever. And but the worst part was just being able not being able to breathe properly. And it didn't feel like there was phlegm, it was congestion.
Yeah.
But I couldn't take a full breath, and already feeling exhausted and tired and body aches. Jeez. I'd get up and walk across the room, and then I would get so winded. And it would take me about 10 minutes to recover.
Just from walking across the room.
Yeah. And this room that I'm in now is kind of my little man cave, guitar workbench stuff. And it's upstairs. And it's just too little flights.
Like even stairs was just.
It was killing me, man. So there was a few days I didn't even come up here. I said, I ain't going up there. I just stay in the bedroom. And then we got 5 people in the house. And so, I started wearing the mask in the common areas. Gina did too. And anytime if we're in the bedroom, then okay, yeah, take the mask off. We're both sick. What are you going to do?
Well, did the other people in the house get it?
Nobody else got it.
No shit.
Nobody else got it. It was just us.
All right.
So, but it's just that it took, I think there was a few days of that fever and the chills, and then maybe a week of that, and it stopped. And I thought, okay, I'm starting to have a couple of good days. I'm not as winded as I was getting, but I still couldn't breathe right. And it felt like I could just draw in like a third of my normal lung capacity. And so I got a little pulse oximeter, those things you stick on your, your finger so I started saying, I think 90 and above is good. And I was like hitting pretty normal. I was hitting between 86 and 90. Okay. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not,
you're getting back to, you feel like you're getting back to normal slowly.
Yeah. So again, my friend and band boss, Shelly's like, get one of those little breathing exercises thing. What are you waiting for? So I got one of those things, and it turns out it's something I'd used before, but started doing this 5 breaths, and you hold the breath for 5 seconds and then cough out the last breath. And that's supposed to really help your lung capacity. And it actually did help, because I started checking the pulse oximeter, and it was going up to about 94 at the highest. Okay. But it was always lingering around 90 and 91 for the most part. So that was getting better, but I was still really short of breath. So that's really exhausting, man, because you don't want to do anything. I didn't touch my guitar for a week. No, not a week, a month. And since all the gigs dried up, I was trying to say, there's a little extra income that I can get is going to my friend Savero's studio and recording stuff for him. He's got a lot of projects going on all the time. And I was afraid to go in there. And then he started just like, I'm going to just stop having people come here for a while. And so about a month and a half, I didn't even step foot in there. I didn't even go in there till last week. When I mean,
just hearing you describe these symptoms, it's like, oh man, like I can't walk across a room, or I'm winded. I can't taste anything. My breathing is not.
I mentioned I got dogs in the house, and they're all little dogs. None of them weighs over 14 or 15 pounds, but one of them is really old, and she lost her vision, and she's our little mama. But I got to pick her up and take her outside and do her business and bring her back in the house and point her towards the water bowl, and we feed her and everything. And otherwise she just walks around the house and bumps into stuff. And if she we have to constantly watch her and make sure she's okay. But just lifting her up and taking her outside is like, I can't do this. So Gina kind of taking that, but she wasn't so great either.
Sure.
So it's, it was pretty taxing. And you know how little dogs are. I mean, dude, it's, you got to chase them down, and it's an effort. So just just that normal little everyday chore, little function, taking the trash out to the curb every week, was like,
oh,
okay,
man, dude,
10 or 15 minutes sitting down just to recover and catch my breath again, and then something else.
I feel for you, man. Well, so let's get to the timeline a little bit. So when you started feeling better and then you got sick again, and right, like you kind of had a little bit of a relapse, like you had a couple good days, then you fell back again.
Yeah, my sense of taste and smell would come back for a couple of days, and then it'll go away for another day. And so that actually happened a couple of times throughout the course of it's about 6 weeks. This whole timeline's about 6 weeks.
So was the most consistent symptom like the taste and smell and the headaches and
the breathing, the headaches and the breathing?
Yeah,
the sense of taste and smell kind of came and went. It wasn't as frequent. I think maybe at the longest stretch, I couldn't taste anything. Might have been about 3 days.
Okay. So when were you like better? Like what was the total, 'cause you're doing well now and you've been well for a while.
All this crap started Father's Day, right? I wasn't sleeping with the crap either. Forgot about that. I would say by right after 4th of July, I was starting to take deeper breaths. I wasn't prone to get as winded.
Steve, do you always measure time in holidays, Steve? Is that like your thing? Or you're just like, hey, Ron, we got to hang out sometime in between Labor Day and the solstice. That's usually how hey, Steve, when's your birthday? It's sometime between Thanksgiving and Halloween.
My birthday is New Year's Eve.
Real? Oh, that's why you measure everything in holidays.
Yeah. I never had a chance, man. I was screwed when I was a kid, like a week after Christmas. Come on.
Yeah. I'm a December birthday. I'm not that far in though, man. I'm earlier in the month, so it wasn't so bad. But
my younger kids are twins, and their birthday's on the 28th.
Oh, wow. Right on. You carried on the tradition.
Yeah. I'm like, you can have this now.
So
I'm looking at the little symptoms log to try to remember all this stuff. But
so it was a solid 3 weeks that you were in bad shape. Is that about right, or is it longer?
Yeah, and then by the 4th week, like all it was like, okay, the headaches stopped, the fever stopped, the congestion was better. I was breathing a little better, but that was the worst. That was the thing that lingered the longest. The breathing capacity. And at that point, I was afraid that I might have some permanent respiratory damage.
Yeah.
And which now
well, that's still a valid concern. I mean, they're finding out that people who have had this thing they're probably gonna potentially need.
It attacks random organs too, not just your lungs.
Right.
It's the liver, it's the kidneys, it's all kinds of I've got one friend's about my age, maybe a little younger, and this dude, I'm in terrible shape. This guy's in great shape, man. Works out. He's been on a respirator for, I think, 7 weeks now.
Yeah. Yeah. You hear those types of stories. Yeah. Well, and I think was it a 7-year-old that just died from it?
I heard on that one.
I saw something apparently like the youngest person has just died from it. And I think they were like 7
years old. Jeez.
Yeah. So you were covered on NPR. They gave you some coverage on a piece that they did about people that don't have health insurance that are getting this thing.
And that was towards the end of July when we had that conversation. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to the segment, I kind of sound like the Marlboro Man because I wasn't totally over. I was still a little husky voice, I wasn't quite over the respiratory stuff yet at that time. I had a conversation. Now I'm breathing fine. Now it's not a problem. I mean, Now I feel, okay, this is how I breathed before. That's what I was worried about. It's like, I'm going to be able to, and I'm not like a smoker or anything like that. I mean, there's not, I'm not worried about lung cancer or anything like that. I mean, emphysema, but I mean, that's, I imagine that's what it feels like.
So what was some of
case, I'm not even like discounting anybody that's going through much worse having to go to the hospital. We didn't have to go to the hospital. Right. We just stayed home for weeks and weeks and weeks and tried to isolate ourselves and treat it like the flu with over-the-counter medications, and trying to, and whatever prescription medications we had, like using discount cards and using generics as much as possible. And then having to weigh whether or not, if it's something like really, really expensive, having to weigh whether or not we can do without it. And so it was scary there for a while. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know maybe we would be hospitalized.
But you and your wife are both doing good now.
We're both perfectly fine now. Yeah, we're both really good now.
Thrilled to hear it, dude.
Yeah, the negative test.
Oh, you tested negative too.
I took a second test on. I'm looking at it right now. 7/15. I don't think that's a holiday, so chill. But yeah, on July 15th, that was my negative test.
Several weeks from the 4th, I took another test.
Yeah, about 2 months from Labor Day.
So that's awesome. COVID fought Steve, and Steve won.
Yeah, this time, one of the biggest worries we have, besides a lot of the financial considerations, is getting it again.
Yeah, no,
there's no guarantee you're not going to get it. I mean, there's no vaccine. Why is everybody going to school? Why are we not still in lockdown?
No,
there's not a vaccine. There's not a treatment that's consistent for everybody because it hits everybody differently, and everybody underestimates it. Mine was a mild case. I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Yeah, poor me." I mean, because we recovered and we're fine now. But if you think that you're safe, if you think you can't go out without a mask, if you think that you can't maintain the social distancing thing, I mean, at the minimum, then you're playing Russian roulette. There's 2 bullets in the chamber, man. And that's it's still scary for us. We don't want to get it again. I don't want to go through this crap again.
Yeah, I mean, dude, just
maybe I'm not so lucky next time. Maybe I do end up in the hospital.
Oh, listening to you describe it, yeah, I don't see why anyone would want to go through that. That sounds brutal. So let me ask you, you did the NPR segment. Now, in fairness to the anatomy of the segment, you talked to them for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They had to put out a 3-minute segment.
Sure.
So, no casting judgment here in this particular, for instance. He said that the reporter was very cool to you. They were very nice. That's great.
Yeah, she was good. She was
but
cool.
but what's some of the stuff that you said that didn't make the air?
Let's see.
You're allowed to cuss here, by the way.
Well, guys, I mentioned yesterday when we talked, I said, hey, after we talked, I said, hey, I didn't mean for that to turn into a manifesto. She goes, no, you're fine. You're cool. Don't worry about it. But no, if
you enjoyed the manifesto, you can go to my band's website.
Yeah, I know.
You're with radio, so you don't want to pay us.
Great band name. By the way, sure somebody's taking that.
What band name?
Manifesto. That'd be awesome.
Just straight up manifesto. Someone's had to have used that before.
Somebody has to. I know,
yeah, someone did.
Nothing's new in music. Nothing's new in anything. We talked about the health insurance stuff because that was kind of the gist of her story too. I think my experience was kind of a framing device where she was talking about, because she had some other policy and think tank people on there and talking about how the COVID numbers are going up in Texas, but the health insurance, the people being covered, is going down, and people just can't afford it. ACA was designed to fail, so I can't afford ACA. I lost my job. I got laid off just over a year ago, but just before that, and that happened in a merger. So as they were laying people off, and I was one of the last people to get laid off, when they got under 50 employees, well, by law, the ACA, they don't have to carry group insurance policies for anybody anymore. So they just cut it off. So for some reason, and there was about a month lag time before that in my layoff. So for some reason, I don't know the technicality, and I haven't looked it up. I was just so angry at the time, but that made me eligible for COBRA, which I wouldn't be able to afford anyway, because I'm trying to cover me and Gina. And so it wasn't even an option at that point. So we're just like, we've been coasting along like this and all that for about the last year. And so when that happened, we got unemployment for a while. Texas workforce commissions, they're real slow in responding, especially during the pandemic, to the extensions that they were supposed to be providing. And there's an extension that I should have gotten off the last unemployment claim for when I got laid off. And it's supposed to be backdated to March when this whole thing kind of started. I still haven't gotten it. I've gotten a couple of communications from them to say, wait for, you should get something in the mail. I've never gotten it. I got 2 correspondents that said you should get something in the mail, and it's going to be backdated, and it's going to provide such and such, an extension. Haven't seen it yet. So like I said, I mean, everything's kind of dried up. So we're kind of coasting along on some savings, and Gina's still been working for the most part. But we've had to tighten up, and like I said, we have 5 people in the house, got some of her family in the house, and everybody's pitching in. So that's why we're still here, and we've taken every deferment we can. We've taken every, for every bill that we have, and, especially in the mortgage and the car payment, all that kind of stuff. And, but all that stuff's coming to an end. That bottom's going to fall out. And the only people talking about this is going to be a mortgage crisis and a rent crisis coming up, and it's going to happen quick. It's going to happen all at once, like it did in 2008. And the only people talking about are you guys, independent media. And MSNBC is not talking about it. CNN is not talking about it. Fox isn't talking about it. They're all owned by the same people. So it's happening. So it's scary. That's scary. It's one thing to be scared that you might end up in a hospital, possibly die, and then end up being a mild case, and you're still miserable and sick, and it takes forever to get over it, and every day's a freaking struggle. That's one thing. But then, and again, I'm not like sitting here poor me. I mean, we're doing everything we can. We're hanging in, and there's a lot of people worse off than we are. But knowing that that's coming, and knowing that there's nobody coming to save you, that's scary as hell. And it's not just going to be us, man. It's going to be millions of people. It's going to be millions of people. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Biden's not going to fix that. Trump ain't fixing it. So what are we supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this whole pandemic has really taught us that we're completely on our own.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a government that, I mean, like to just put it in the most blunt sense. I mean, Carlin was right. They don't give a fuck about you.
No, they don't, man.
They don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
This is a capitalism. This is a capitalism. Yeah. Obedient workers to keep their train rolling. And by the way, your main priority should be keeping that train rolling. Steve, this whole time you're talking about you're worried about your wife and your family and your health. I didn't hear anything about you talking about the company that didn't get your labor because you're sick.
Yeah, well,
selfish guy that you are. This is capitalism, baby. That's what they expect from people. That is honestly what they expect from people.
Yeah, just accept it.
You're supposed to go out and die for this system that threw you over the boat over 50 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm reluctant to name the company, because I don't want to start a whole thing, but there was no severance. There was hardly any notice, although I kind of knew it was coming.
Well, and your company is just part of a rotten system.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's not like you can point the finger at one. I mean, this is the system. This is the system as a whole. And this is how people are just left out of it. Right. I mean, what a fable. What a freaking fable. I mean, you're just taught so many freaking lies, that being one of the biggest ones. I mean, I don't think you can say what the greatest country in the world is. I don't think that's a superlative you can give to anything. I think that's
what's our term of reference for that?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, if I had to give the gold star to someone, it sure as hell wouldn't be the U.S.
Yeah.
No freaking way.
Nobody else wants us. We can't travel anywhere now.
No one else wants us. No one else wants us. They're like, you guys, get your shit together. Take your shit and get it together. Well,
a lot of what we talked about on the interview too, kind of getting back to what you talked, they edited some stuff, and that's fine. I understand they kind of had to work in a lot of stuff, and it was just about a 3.5 minute segment. The text of the article, there's a little bit more in there.
Okay.
But not much. But we kind of touched on, I tried to kind of push hey, let's we just need better healthcare in Texas, and they're focusing on Texas. So I bring that up, but ideally Medicare for all. The corporate health insurance so
they wouldn't air Medicare for all when you said it.
No, they would air Medicare for all. That it's an insurance companies are to between you and your doctor, they're just there to make money and to approve or disapprove whatever treatment you're going to get. Like, who the fuck are you, dude? So
our system's ridiculous.
It's failed. It's failed most of us, and unless you're just sitting pretty on a big pile of money, you know, it's this pandemic has really exposed that system for what it is, and it's a complete failure. It's like Jimmy says, man, it's a failed state.
Yeah. Well, we're just not. I mean, it's not even fair to call this a country at this point. It's just we're a corporation with state lines.
You said to Margaret Kimberly, it's a corporation with borders. Is that what you said?
Corporation with state lines.
With state lines, yeah, that was good. That was funny.
Thanks, man. But
it's like, yeah, that's right.
Well, it's funny. Like they didn't air like you said Medicare for all. You might as well have just said fuck or something like that. Like that was you. Ooh, you don't say that. You don't say that.
But yeah, I mean, the leaders have exposed themselves as lackeys for that corporatocracy, and San Antonio's government, the city government, they're a little better than I think most. I wouldn't call them progressives by any means, but I mean, I think they've done their best. In fact, that's the only reason I got any free testing. Most people have to pay money they don't have just to get tested. Otherwise, they just suffer through. Like, yeah, I guess I got it. I don't know. And it got politicized so much so that you know, people's like, well, you know, I need a haircut, and they're storming state houses, and they're not wearing masks. And man, I go to the grocery store, and half of them people, their nose is sticking out from over the mask, or some of they just have it under their chins. Like, what the hell is that doing? So, and I think I don't know if it's a state ordinance or city ordinance that you have to have a mask in all places of business now, but.
That's recent in Texas?
Yeah, that's recent in Texas, and nobody's
because like we've had that for a while.
People are still slipping by you in the aisles, and you know, there's no social distancing going on.
Oh,
you know,
dude, I remember
shower when I go home.
Dude, I remember when this first really started going down, and we were getting used to like the whole like 6 feet apart in lines, and I was in line at a grocery store. This dude was standing so close to me.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, he probably, if I had shorts on, he would have been able to count my leg hairs, Joe Biden style. He would have been able, like, if he wanted to, he totally could have done it. He was standing so close to me, which is like really close line standards. In normal circumstances, you're just annoying. You're just fucking annoying when you stand way too close to people in the line. You're an annoying person. Now you're a fucking health hazard.
Yeah.
You've gone from just being annoying to a health hazard.
Well, before the pandemic, I had to think about personal space, man. You know, I'd have people standing like right behind, almost breathing down my neck and lying at a
when you can feel them breathing.
Yeah, dude,
what are you doing? What is wrong with you? Why do people do that?
I don't know, man. Maybe I smelled good. I don't know. What can I say?
You might have. You might have. So in fairness to that person.
Is that the brute that I was wearing at that?
Well, there you go. So that's
what's the worst fragrance?
Now it's your fault.
Old Spice. That's the worst. I don't know.
What about Axe?
I digress. Huh?
Axe is kind of ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Do they still make that?
I think so. I've seen it.
Dude, I feel like, I mean, I might be dating myself here, but I remember like I went to college during the era of when they would have like campus recruiters for Axe. So
really?
Your friend. Oh yeah, dude. They would have
the guys like that approach you in a parking lot with a box.
They were your classmates, man. And they would have a box with them, and they'd be like, bro, and your friends would do it. Like friends of yours would be like, Ron, dude, I just got this best button. And I was like, oh, you're doing that thing for the Axe? Okay, good for you. So I would actually, you would get handed so much free Axe. Like occasionally you'd be like, well, I guess I'll just, all right. Yeah. I mean, like I probably had free samples of it that have since been thrown away at some point. I have no idea. Like it could be like all my stuff from college. My parents went through it and they were like, what the hell is this stuff? But yeah, anyway.
Any women throwing themselves at you, you know, when you spray your
I don't think it ever worked quite the way they advertise it. I don't know. You know, I mean, you know,
stray dogs come up
wanting me to adopt them. They were like, you're a friend because of this amazing fragrance. Yes. I sprayed the Axe body spray and she just came up like purring. And I'm like, great.
Yeah. They worked.
No, she was a stray though. She was a stray though.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, she was back in my college days. Well, Steve, I'm so happy you came on to share your story today. And I am very happy that you and your wife, Gina, have recovered. And I hope that good health continues. You know, fingers crossed and all that. Do you got any music you want to promote? Is there anything you got that people can find online?
Yeah. Go on ShellyLattes.online. My boss, she's got.
Can you spell that for everybody?
SHELLY LARES.online.
Alvarez. Okay.
She's got merch. She's got new music coming. She's got a new single out, and it's an old remake of a song called "Sal Si Puedes," and it's kind of an old Latin jazz number from like 1937.
Nice. And you play on it?
It's all horns on it. No, I didn't actually play on this single because there's no guitar and there's no drums on it.
Oh, okay. But you play with
that old school. But we're recording the rest of the album, and I'm on the rest of the album.
Nice, man.
So that stuff's coming out, and then I have a record with Texas Latino, my other band, and it's called from the Heart of Texas, and that's on YouTube. Shelly's isn't on YouTube because it should be on Apple Music, I think, within a month or two, and all the other outlets. But she's kind of keeping it exclusive to her website right now, her single. But the Texas Latino record, all our materials on YouTube. It's on Apple Music, Spotify, all that stuff. And well, I shouldn't plug Spotify right now, man. They suck. SEO. God dang, man. That story pissed me off. What gaslighting?
Yeah, right.
Man. So, but no, anyway, and another buddy of mine, a friend of mine, a brother from we known each other since the first grade. We grew up in the same little hometown, Joey Martinez, and a record we put out 3 years ago. So I put that out there too.
Man.
It's on YouTube. That's on Apple Music too.
All right.
So, but
so Texas Latino and Shelly Alvarez, check out that music.
I've been in 2 or 3 bands consistently for at least the last 20 years.
Nice, man.
Because that's just, I was just kind of a hired guitar gun, and
yeah. No, a lot of my friends have that story.
You have to be versatile, and you have to learn a whole bunch of different music. You got to be on your toes.
Yeah. Well, especially like a lot of my Nashville buddies, because you got to be a multi-instrumentalist too. Because they might be like, we want banjo in this, we want keys, we want, mandolin, and you gotta be able to, no pun intended, fiddle about with all of them.
Hey,
when you're, you do. It's Steve, thank you so much for being here. And you can follow Steve on Twitter at Steve Alvarez. Check out all the music he's involved with. Red Pill, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. You keep this show on the air. Red Pill says, with love from Antifa. Thank you very much, Red Pill. I appreciate the super chat contribution. And guys, thank you so much, Steve, for being here once again. I appreciate it very much. We'll be back.
It was an honor. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same channel, everybody. In the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.